Welcome to UK Chronics. Today, Piers Morgan talks about the $100 million Netflix disaster that has finally ruined Meghan and Harry. The bill always comes in the end, and for Meghan Markle, it is now being paid with something very serious: total professional failure. Piers Morgan says the big illusion is finally finished, and the $100 million house of cards built on complaints and emotional manipulation has completely fallen apart, leaving behind nothing but unsold jam jars and broken deals. We were told they were the new global power couple, rich trendsetters who would change royalty for the digital world. But as Tom Bower has carefully shown, the truth is far more sad. They did not build an empire. They burned a bridge that cost $100 million to cross, only to end up on the other side with nothing except a shrinking bank balance and a destroyed reputation. This is not just a business failure. It is a perfect lesson in how to push away the most powerful people in Hollywood while also losing the respect of the public you claim to represent. While Harry and Meghan acted like victims inside their Montecito mansion, the biggest names in the industry were quietly doing the numbers. And those numbers, as we will soon see, no longer make sense. From a $13 million charity fund that dropped down to only $2.1 million, to a shocking 60% of staff quitting, leaving their offices empty and silent. The Sussex brand is no longer something valuable. It has become a serious problem. You were told they were the future. But today, they are a warning story about what happens when you confuse being famous with having real talent, and when you turn betrayal into a business plan. Stay with us for the next hour as we examine every single dollar of this $100 million failure. Because as Piers Morgan and Tom Bower are about to show, the biggest story Netflix ever created was not a documentary. It was the false idea of Sussex success itself. It all begins with a simple question. How do you spend $100 million and end up less liked than when you started with nothing? To understand how big this collapse really is, we must go back to the moment the Netflix contract was signed. It was meant to be the deal of a lifetime. But once the cameras stopped and the world moved on, all that remained was a trail of unhappy workers, failed ideas, and a public that had finally become bored of the same old story. The game is over. The money is disappearing. And Hollywood is finally saying out loud what people have been quietly saying behind closed doors for years. The $100 million Netflix deal was meant to protect the Sussexes from the royal family forever. It was sold as a creative empire and a home for their inspiring ideas. But as Tom Bower explains in his shocking research, it was actually a kind of business self-destruction that began the moment the deal was signed. Netflix did not buy a serious production company. They bought a drama-filled soap opera. And as every TV executive knows, a soap opera only works as long as there is fresh drama to sell. Once the couple used up all their complaints about the British royal family, there was nothing left. They had no real experience in making shows, no history of telling strong stories, and no idea how to keep people interested once the excitement of their betrayal faded away. Netflix has now admitted, or more accurately been forced to admit, that this unhealthy partnership is ending. This was not a friendly split. It was a cold and carefully planned removal from the world's biggest streaming service. Tom Bower predicted this result exactly in his book. He saw past the shiny headlines and understood that Meghan's business dreams were built on very weak ground. She believed that her royal title alone would keep millions of people watching forever. But in the harsh world of Hollywood, you are only valued for your most recent success. And what did the Sussexes actually make? A documentary that even loyal fans found boring and repetitive, and many cancelled projects that were never completed. The irony, as Piers Morgan clearly points out, is huge. The Duke and Duchess, who accuse others of misleading the public, spent $100 million of Netflix's money trying to convince everyone that their version of events was the only truth. But viewers were not as easy to fool as they expected. The entire show was a cold attempt to rewrite history and make people doubt their own memories. Now the truth is finally being revealed, and it leaves Meghan badly exposed. We are seeing the collapse of a brand, not just in money terms, but in values and trust as well. Tom Bower's investigation shows a basic problem at the heart of their business plan. They were selling something that people only wanted to hear once. After you sell your family's private stories, you have nothing left to offer. They are running out of money because they are running out of importance. The corporate world, which once welcomed them warmly with smiles and handshakes, now asks for something Meghan and Harry seem unable to give: real work and proper business management. Investors no longer give money just because someone has a royal title. They invest based on profit and results. And the return on the Sussex brand has been nothing at all. Hollywood is a place built on influence, and nothing has less influence than a $100 million failure. They used their royal positions to turn themselves into global celebrities, damaging the British royal family in the process. But once that institution was gone, they discovered a harsh truth. Without it, they are just two more famous faces in a city overflowing with celebrities, holding tightly to attention that is quickly slipping away. If you want to understand what a collapsing empire really looks like, do not focus on red carpets or fancy events. Look at the tax records. For many years, the Archewell Foundation was shown as the greatest symbol of the Sussexes' global influence. It was presented as a powerful charity that would make the world a better place. But as Piers Morgan and Tom Bower have recently pointed out, the numbers show a very different story. This is not a story of success or impact. It is a story of fast and serious decline. The charity that was meant to guide their morals has turned into a financial wasteland. And the reason is very clear. Wealthy Americans have stopped trusting the brand. Let us now look at the hard facts, clearly written out so there is no confusion. In 2021, when excitement around their post-royal life was at its highest, Archewell reported huge donations totaling $13 million. This was a massive wave of money, driven by curiosity and supported by rich donors who wanted to be linked with royal rule breakers. But move forward to the latest financial reports, and that $13 million flood has slowed to a weak stream of just $2.1 million. That is an 84% drop in donations. In the charity world, this is not just a bad year. It is a loud signal that donors no longer believe in you. Tom Bower explains this change with great clarity. Before Meghan Markle entered Harry's life, Prince Harry could raise money with a simple handshake. His royal role alone made people trust him. But Meghan introduced a different style, one focused on business ambition and public attention, without the strong structure needed to manage it properly. Tom Bower explains that big charities and extremely wealthy donors now demand full openness and clear plans for how their money will be used. They do not give millions simply because someone has an impressive title and lives in Montecito. Harry, it seems, became frustrated with these rules and systems. He expected money to continue coming in just because of who he was. That belief turned out to be wrong. The financial situation in 2024 looks even worse when spending is examined. While donations fell to just $2.1 million, the foundation still spent more than $5.1 million. This created a shocking shortfall of $2.5 million in a single year. You do not need to be a financial expert to see that spending double what you earn leads straight to financial collapse. So where did all that money go? It certainly did not go toward the large global projects they promised. A large amount of Archewell's money has been used for office costs, legal services, and expensive public relations teams needed to protect their image from falling apart. But the most revealing number of all is related to people. Archewell has lost 60% of its staff. When more than half of your employees, the people who know what is happening behind the scenes, choose to leave, it sends a powerful message to the public. Piers Morgan has repeatedly focused on this issue. Why is this couple unable to keep employees? Is it because their mission has no real substance? Or is it because the work environment is, as many quietly suggest, extremely difficult? For viewers over the age of 50, who understand the value of earned money and strong institutions, this is the clearest warning sign. You cannot claim to help humanity while your own charity is bleeding both cash and workers. The so-called Meghan effect was supposed to turn everything it touched into charity gold. Instead, it has turned gold into something heavy and worthless. Wealthy donors in Silicon Valley and New York are not interested in supporting a personal image project that protects two celebrities from facing their fading relevance. The illusion has disappeared. All that remains is a $2.5 million gap and a deep, uncomfortable silence from the people who once happily wrote the checks. The sparkle and excitement of Hollywood are often used to hide a much tougher truth. This city is built on real results, not fancy words. For viewers who have watched stars rise and fall over many decades, the current position of Meghan Markle in social circles may be the clearest sign yet of her professional downfall. Piers Morgan reveals that the Meghan effect, once believed to turn every public appearance into a royal moment, has instead created a danger zone that even the most ambitious celebrities are now eager to stay away from. Hollywood is no longer quietly talking about the Sussexes behind closed doors. Instead, The industry is clearly pulling away through a cold, carefully planned silence. Tom Bower, in his tireless search for facts, has noticed a pattern he calls the Hollywood cold front. When Meghan and Harry first arrived in Montecito, they were treated like exciting new prizes. Every top celebrity, from Oprah Winfrey to Ellen DeGeneres, wanted to be connected to the royal brand. But as time passed and the $100 million Netflix deal produced little more than a documentary full of complaints, that warm welcome turned cold. Powerful figures in the industry began to understand that being linked to Meghan did not add respect. Instead, it brought drama, legal trouble, and a level of negativity that is harmful to business. One of the clearest and most damaging signs of this change happened recently with actor Jack Quaid. When he was asked on camera about the idea of working with Meghan Markle on a future Amazon film, a project meant to be her big return to acting, his reaction showed no excitement at all. Instead, there was clear and painful discomfort. Quaid, an experienced professional, completely froze. For several long and uncomfortable seconds, it looked like he was searching for a safe answer that would not damage his own career. When he finally spoke, his words were very revealing. He called the situation insane, a strong word in an industry that values calm and control. But what he did after that mattered even more. As both Tom Bower and Piers Morgan carefully observed, Quaid then went on to praise every other person involved in the project. He spoke positively about the directors, the writers, and his fellow actors. But he did not mention Meghan Markle even once, using the polished and careful style common in Hollywood interviews. This is what insiders call erasure. It is a purposeful move. When someone is known to be difficult or quick to sue, and you have nothing positive to say, you simply pretend they are not there. You talk about anything else. You mention the food, the crew, the location, or the weather, but you avoid the name that brings trouble. Piers Morgan has pointed to this behavior as the clearest sign yet of their exile from Hollywood. In the past, famous figures were quick to defend the so-called mistreated Duchess. Today, that support has completely disappeared. The stars who once stood by her now understand that Meghan's way forward leaves nothing but damage behind. She destroyed her relationship with the British royal family, an institution that has lasted for over 1,000 years. So why would a Hollywood studio or a major actor believe they would be treated any better? For Americans over 50, who respect professionalism and believe in earning success step by step, this rejection by Hollywood carries deep meaning. It marks the point where the outsider story stops sounding brave and starts feeling tiring. The industry has learned that the Sussexes are not interested in the hard work behind real productions, the long nights in editing rooms, or the careful balance needed in studio politics. What they want is the executive producer title and a 9-figure paycheck, without putting in the effort required to deserve it. Because of this, the $100 million deal has turned into a heavy burden. No executive wants to approve a Meghan Markle project only to watch it fail like Pearl, the animated series that Netflix canceled before even one episode was released. The silence from stars like Jack Quaid is the sound of doors closing. It is Hollywood deciding that the drama costs more than it is worth. Meghan Markle wanted to rule the movie world. But as Tom Bower accurately predicted, she has instead become the person no one wants to be seen talking to on camera. The spotlight still exists, but the stage is empty, and the real decision-makers in Hollywood have already moved on. The word gaslighting is used often today, but Piers Morgan explains that for the Sussexes, it was not just a trendy term. It was the core of their business strategy. For people over 50, raised with respect for clear facts, personal responsibility, and historical truth, the Sussex attempt to reshape reality has felt deeply offensive. Tom Bower points out that many Americans are now pushing back against what they see as a dishonest effort to change shared memories. This is no longer just a public relations issue. It is a moral rejection from a public that has grown tired of constant contradictions. Think back to the early interviews, the podcasts, and the $100 million Netflix series. The message was always the same: their truth against the world's misunderstanding. But as Tom Bower's research clearly shows, their version of events often crashed directly into actual facts. For the baby boomer generation who remember the grace and seriousness with which Queen Elizabeth II ruled for 70 years, watching her life's work described as racist or as a fancy prison by someone who lived inside it for less than 2 years was the first deep crack in the Sussex brand. You cannot fool an entire generation that personally watched history happen in real time. Piers Morgan has been very clear and loud in criticizing this exact approach. He explains that the Duke and Duchess of gaslighting believed they could use expensive filming, dramatic music, and emotional storytelling to cover up clear problems with facts. They expected people to forget timelines, ignore written royal rules, and dismiss the accounts of staff who had worked inside the palace for decades. But the American audience, especially those with many years of life experience, is not easily fooled by shiny visuals. They notice the pattern. A claim is made. Facts prove it wrong. Then the Sussexes move on to a new complaint without ever admitting the earlier claim was false. This constant changing of the story has caused a powerful backlash. By 2026, public exhaustion with the Sussex narrative has reached its limit. Tom Bower argues that the couple completely misunderstood how Americans think. Americans enjoy supporting underdogs and they admire comeback stories, but they strongly dislike hypocrisy. When you lecture people about climate change while flying on private jets, or speak about poverty while living in a $14 million mansion in Montecito, people stop listening. The Meghan effect has shifted from interest to annoyance. The backlash also comes from something even deeper, the betrayal of family. This value matters greatly to people over 50. To many viewers, the $100 million deal felt like dirty money earned by selling out the private lives of a father and a brother who could not speak freely in response. Tom Bower calls this moral collapse. He believes the reason money is disappearing and contracts are being cancelled is because brands and partners are afraid of being linked to a reputation built on betrayal. The public reaction has moved from quiet watching to open rejection. We see it in falling approval ratings in both Britain and America. We see it in the comment sections of major news platforms. The gaslighting failed because people chose to believe what they could see with their own eyes instead of following a written script. They watched a family being torn apart for money. They watched an institution attacked by the very people who gained the most from its status. As Piers Morgan sharply noted, you may fool some people for a short time, but you cannot spend $100 million to fool everyone forever. The story of the hunted princess has been replaced by the truth of the carefully managed celebrity. For a generation that respects hard work and honesty, the Sussex use of victimhood as a product has become their greatest mistake. The anger is not only about what was said. It is about the belief that the public was too foolish to notice the lies. From the dizzying peak of a $100 million Netflix deal to the awkward reality of selling jars of fruit preserves across the world, Piers Morgan explains that Meghan Markle's career path has taken a turn so strange that even the most negative Hollywood writers could not have imagined it. We are now seeing what Tom Bower calls the great shrinking, especially clear to people over 50 who understand that real respect is earned slowly through years of service and steady behavior. Watching a Duchess turn into a lifestyle influencer selling jam in Australia is the final proof that royal mystery has been exchanged for a cheap brand image. Tom Bower predicted this fall exactly in his investigations. He said that once the Sussexes ran out of royal secrets to sell, they would panic and chase attention wherever they could find it. And nothing shows desperation more clearly than a global figure who once stood on a palace balcony beside Queen Elizabeth II, now reduced to promoting jars of jam. This is not just a change in business direction. It is a public admission that the story of the global power couple has collapsed. When you can no longer attract world leaders or secure massive studio budgets, you are pushed into the online version of a roadside market. The difference is, as Piers Morgan describes it, shocking. In 2020, Meghan Markle was the most talked-about woman in the world. She once had the world's largest streaming service within her reach and the most famous name in lifestyle branding ready to support her. But by April 2026, the Meghan effect has been pushed into a small niche market in Australia. Tom Bower points out that choosing Australia is very revealing. It shows deep desperation, a last attempt to find a friendly crowd after burning bridges in London, New York, and Los Angeles. Yet even there, the response has been cool and unwelcoming. The Australian public, much like Americans over the age of 50, values honesty and direct speech. They can easily see through the polished and carefully staged image of the Duchess of Jam. They understand this is not something she is doing out of love or passion. It is a financial rescue attempt. As donations to Archewell crashed from $13 million down to just $2.1 million, finding a new source of income became urgent. But you cannot support a $14 million Montecito lifestyle by selling jars of jam on the side. Piers Morgan has repeatedly mocked this tiny ambition. He explains that moving from royal reformer to jam seller is a perfect example of how to destroy a brand. Every jar sold reminds people of what was lost, the dignity of the monarchy, the trust of the public, and the power that comes with belonging to a respected institution. Tom Bower believes this cheapening of her image is the final blow to her Hollywood hopes. Big studios do not hire people who have become jokes. By stepping into the crowded and ordinary lifestyle market, she has quietly admitted that she is no longer competing at the highest level. For older generations who believe in knowing your place and respecting the meaning of a title, this feels like a betrayal of royalty itself. A duchess selling jam does not feel relatable. It feels ordinary. The mystery is gone. The charm is gone. All that remains is someone trying to make money from a title she spent years criticizing. Tom Bower's final judgment on this phase is deeply unsettling. He says the jam era marks the shift from being a figure remembered by history to being laughed at by the public. The facts support this view. A 60% loss of staff. A $2.5 million shortfall at Archewell. And the frozen, uncomfortable reactions of Hollywood peers like Jack Quaid all lead to the same result. The $100 million fantasy is finished. Only the jam remains. And as any smart buyer knows, once you taste betrayal, no amount of sweetness can fix it. The Meghan effect was always an illusion. But in Australian kitchens, that illusion has finally ended. The bill has arrived, and it is far more costly than any $100 million contract could ever pay. For viewers over 50 who built their lives on loyalty, effort, and patience, the story of Meghan and Harry stands as a warning. We started with one simple question. How do you burn through a $100 million deal and end up with nothing but jars of jam? The answer, as Piers Morgan explains, is simple. You cannot build something lasting on short-term anger. The numbers we have examined are not just figures. They are the examination report of a brand that chose betrayal as its foundation. A charity fund that fell from $13 million to $2.1 million. 60% of staff leaving because they could no longer survive in a toxic space. A $2.5 million deficit printed clearly in Archewell's tax filings. And most clearly of all, the total silence from Hollywood's elite, shown in the uncomfortable pauses of actors who would rather talk about anything else than the Duchess of Sussex. Tom Bower's warnings have come true in every way. He saw that the Meghan effect was empty, a shiny cover hiding weak leadership and poor management. The truth is, the biggest streaming service in the world did not just cancel a contract. It cancelled an illusion. Meghan Markle had the greatest stage imaginable, the strongest brand name in lifestyle culture, and the support of global power players. But she wasted it all by choosing quick attention over lasting integrity. By April 2026, the performance is over. The empire never truly existed. The jam is not flying off shelves. The documentaries no longer interest viewers. And the public has stopped believing the victim story. As Piers Morgan and Tom Bower have shown, when you trade your family, your institution, and your self-respect for fast money, you often end up alone, far from home, selling preserves to people who have already moved on. The $100 million is gone, but the lesson remains. You can buy attention, you can buy headlines, and you can even buy a mansion in Montecito.